connect to Facebook. Am I logging in? Come on, come on, come on. Yeah, there we go. Cool. And connect to Facebook. We're live, it seems.
Awesome.
Great.
Let's just wait for some. Yeah, there we go. We got some people watching. Hey, Metajel.
Do you want me to do the intro, Wiktor, or you want to do it?
I don't know. Yeah, sure. You can introduce me, I guess.
Okay. You know, you forgot to put the stream overlay on, though. That's the one thing you forgot.
Oh, yeah, I'll do that. Sorry. And copy that over to my desktop. And there we go. Yeah, bear with me, I don't stream very much. And I guess I just add and do an image, browse for it.
You may have to restart the stream. No big deal.
Let's see here. Okay. Yeah, there we go.
Is it showing up on your end?
Yeah, I'm just gonna check on Twitch. It's a little bit of delay.
Yeah, about 30 seconds roughly.
30 seconds? Oh, we're gonna. Oh, there we go.
15,
It showed up.
Okay.
All right, awesome. Hey guys, so the stream is now started. We're doing a Megascans to Unreal Engine 4 workshop. I am Jonathan Holmes. I am the Quixel Suite product manager / community manager. Wiktor Öhman, who is, or unless I mispronounced your name, I apologize.
It's
He's
fine.
our art lead. And Owen O'Brien, which I believe I got that one correct. He's also one of our artists who does phenomenal work with scanning and putting together scans and a lot of other fun stuff. So today we're going to try to basically do a live rundown of how one of Wiktor's Unreal Engine projects has been put together, essentially. And I think you guys are going to like this one. It's a real special treat, and the way he's kind of worked Megascans Studio into producing some just crazy shapes and patterns, and you got to see this. It's gonna be mind blowing when it's done. For the moment, though, I am currently sick, so I'm going to try to talk as little as possible because I kind of sound like Barry White, and I don't like that at all. So I'll be handling chat moderating today. So I'll let you guys go ahead and get started, and if I got anything cool to say, I'll pop in occasionally and say something.
Thanks. So yeah, I'm Wiktor, and the scene you see in front of me, or in front of you, is in Unreal Engine 4, and it's made entirely, well, with an exception for the bomb, entirely in Megascans Studio, along with some Megascans 3D assets. So yeah, was thinking I'd mainly be showing off like my approach to composing materials in Megascans Studio, how I work with the program, how I see the materials and what I use them for, etc. And I'll also show how I set them up in Unreal. I got a really messy materials. I'm probably gonna have to untangle some node noodles, but it's hopefully it's gonna make sense. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to shoot them off, and I'll try and answer them as soon as possible. And Owen, you're here as well. You also have a lot of experience in Megascans Studio and Unreal, so yeah.
Yeah, happy to pitch in whenever.
Yeah. Do you want to say anything, Owen, before I get started?
I think just as you go along, I'll jump in if there's anything I see that I...
Cool. So I'll just jump right over to Studio. So yeah, this is one of the materials that I use in the scene. Oh, I can actually make a quick fly through of the scene. So this is pretty much created like a movie set. So it works from a couple of angles. But if I turn the camera around too much, it's not very pretty. But that's not its purpose. So it's using 3 different materials. It's using the muddy, like wet mud with the drag marks, as you see here. And it's also using a dusty material, which is up here. It's a bit more dry. It's also painted out here and there, trying to locate it. And there's also a material for the slopes, which is shown here a bit in the shade. And depending on how much time we have, I'm gonna hopefully show all the materials and how I set them up, and I'm also gonna create some materials. And if you have any requests for materials, I can try and compose some. Just let me know in the chat. But yeah.
Don't worry, I will.
I'm sorry?
I said, don't worry, I'll let you know.
Cool. So yeah, this I've done some adjustments to the roughness and stuff in the engine. Like this sort of turned out to be more muddy than I intended, but it's the same materials, I promise. I just added some roughness bias to it. So actually, do you think should I break this material down, or should I maybe recreate it? What do you think is best, Owen?
I'd say maybe recreating it will be the best, because then we can make sure there's no steps missing, whatever. It's usually easier to deconstruct that way. Yeah.
So I'm just gonna make this stream. What's the name? Is it lava, or is it when it's actually solid? Magma.
Yeah, I guess hardened lava. Yeah, black lava.
Yeah, stream lava. And I'll hit create. So we don't have much lava scanned. So what I usually do when I'm creating stuff like this is I use rocks as a base. So I'm gonna use, let's see here, actually look for stone. So this is the browser, which contains all the different materials I've downloaded from the Megascans website. And for those of you who haven't seen it, it's over here and here in the library. So you can just search for whatever you want, and once you download it, it's gonna pop up in your browser here. And yeah, if you subscribe to Megascans, you also get access to the Megascans Studio, which I'm using here. So let's just see if I can find a good base material to work from. I think this might work. When selecting materials for stuff they're not supposed to be used for, what I look for is the shapes and not much, like the large shapes usually, and not the albedo and the color information and stuff like that. And this looks kind of lumpy, and got some nice large soft details in it. And the first thing I'm gonna do is almost entirely remove the saturation, and I'm gonna darken it. And I have to apologize beforehand if it turns out like crap here, because I have the sun straight in my eyes. There we go. And I'll add some height. So here you have some controls for a noise, or like height noise. So you have amplitude, frequency, octaves, lacunarity, I think it's pronounced, persistence, clamp, and clamp influence. And the ones I use most are the octaves, frequency, and amplitude here. So what the amplitude does is, yeah, as it sounds, it increases like the intensity of the height noise. So I usually set it somewhere around between 1 and 2, and lower the frequency for the base of the material. So something like this maybe. I can preview the tiling of it by pressing T. Maybe reduce it a little bit more, something like this. And boost it up to 1.6. There we go. And it's not really looking like lava. I mean, it's not gonna look like lava until at the very end, but we can make it look a bit more like lava, because if we look at some references, I really hope that's the actual word for it. No, that's, what is the word for like the dried lava?
It's like a crust, isn't it?
Yeah, like yeah.
Oh, by the way, while I have your attention, somebody has noticed that you have additional icons. That's super secret, though. We can't talk about that.
Yeah, we can't talk about that. No, that's internal stuff. You will see it soon, though. let's see. Yeah, so this stuff here. So as you can see, it's not very detailed. It's kind of smooth. Oh, here's a good picture. It's kind of smooth. Got some like wiggly, like layered kind of look. So I'm not gonna be able to recreate this perfectly without some shader magic in Unreal. But this is this sort of the look I'm going for, like the soft, smooth kind of stuff. So to do that, I will reduce the high frequency. So as you can see, it's already like it's removing all those fine. I'm gonna zoom in real ugly close here. So you can see here all the high frequency details get removed. So if I set this to around maybe around here, we got a pretty good starting point, I think. I'm also gonna increase the glossiness. And you can do that by using this slider here. So I think this is a pretty good level. And you can preview the different maps by going through the number keys here. So 1 is PBR, 2 albedo, 3 cavity, gloss, roughness, normal, etc. It's really handy when trying to color match different layers, which I will do now. So next I'll select another type of rock. I'll choose a bit. This one is darker out of the box, so it's gonna look pretty cool, I think, on top. And it's also got this nice detail, which we saw in the references. I mean, not 100% accurate, but it's got some nice similarities.
Yeah, it's all really, when you're doing this stuff, it's about kind of matching material properties that you notice in the reference.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a bit of echo here on my end. I'm not sure if there is for you.
Hey, Wiktor.
Yep.
You have a bit of an echo coming from Owen.
Oh, I do. I'll lower the volume. Actually, I could try and set up my headphones real quick. No, I can't. Sorry. I'll just lower the volume.
Eesh. Sorry.
There we go.
Cool. Yeah, and that's fixed it, I think.
So as I said before, I'll go in here to the albedo preview, and I'll click the swatch here, and I'll try and match. So if you can see where the materials blend here. So I'll just try and match that as closely as possible, and I'll make this a little bit darker, I think, like that. And I'll also try and match the glossiness. And you can do the same thing here. Just go into the gloss preview and adjust the slider. So I want this to be a little bit more glossy, just a little bit more. And yeah, gloss and roughness are the same thing. It's just inverted pretty much. So the gloss map, if you export it as roughness, it's just, yeah, it's gonna work. So don't worry about it being called gloss if you use roughness in your engine. There we go. And here I'm also gonna adjust the height because I want this to be a bit more lumpy. And I'll play around with octaves. I find usually 2 is pretty good. And I'll lower the frequency a little bit. Something like that. And reduce the amplitude as well.
That octave slider is something else, man.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, it's really good.
I mean, it completely turns into another material if you just play around with this. It's so cool.
It's also worth mentioning maybe that it's really easy to go too high and too kind of steep with these when you're tweaking, but it's really important to stay fairly subtle, because if you do have a really steep height noise amplitude, you'll start noticing on the normal map you get this really wavy repetitive pattern, and it won't really. It's really good to help break up the shapes, but be careful with how far you go with it.
Yeah. So yeah, the height influences the normal map as well. It's worth mentioning. There we go. Yeah, and here's my favorite part actually about the studio. I'm just gonna turn off the tiling for now, and that's the threshold. It's like you can adjust how this stuff blend. It's almost like it's sinking into each other. So what I'm adjusting here is, if you have forgotten, is this part here, like the ones with the this nice pattern here. So if I drag the threshold slider, it's just gonna come out of the other material. And you can also adjust the radius, which is pretty much like the fall off or like how harsh or tight the actual blend is. So if I take it all the way down, it's pretty much like they intersect. I can zoom in here, you can see how they intersect. And if I increase the radius, it's just way more subtle and softer. So I actually want a pretty high radius for this blend. Something like this, because I like both materials, but I want them, yeah, sort of 50% each. And here as well, I'll reduce the high frequency. So now we're getting this nice soft look on both. And it started to look like a pretty good base, I think. I might actually make them even darker. But right now, as I said, the sun is shining straight into my eyes, so it's kind of hard to tell the brightness of what's on the monitor. But I think this looks pretty cool, as a base at least. And
looks fine to me.
Yeah, looks great.
Awesome. And it's tiling pretty well. It's like the low. I found that having a low frequency on the height noise is very good for breaking off the repetition when tiling. So if I would increase the frequency, you can see. Yeah.
You instantly can tell, and it's important to also make sure there's no very unique patterns. In this case, it almost is. It's not very easy to see where it repeats, but in some scans you can see some very specific rocks or twigs, or very bright colors sticking out of the scan that can instantly show its tiling. But you try to be as subtle as you can with these shapes, and you can get a really natural tile that isn't visible. Like the tiling isn't too repetitive in the engine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so now that I'm done with these, I will go ahead and add a soil or a mud or something. And I actually can't remember which soils I used for the original material, but I'm pretty sure I can recreate something similar. So the same thing here, like now I want to add sort of, like it's gonna be like crackulated, whatever it's called, like cracked, like it's dried up and sort of separated. So having like a soil, like maybe something like this, wavy with some cracks in it, like something really chunky with large, nice, defined cracks, I think it's gonna work really well. Yeah, something up here maybe. I think that's gonna look pretty cool. So, as you can see here, the color is completely off, but if you just go into albedo, it's super easy to color match. Something like that. And it's already looking really cool. It's getting nice and chunky. And I'm gonna add some amplitude to this as well. And you can see some nice cracks showing up here as well. And what you can do is you can also play with the repetitions of materials. You can make one layer tile less than the other. I mean, it's not entirely physically correct, but you can make some pretty cool results with it. So I'm gonna adjust the threshold, and you can also change the how to mask, if you want to mask from above or from below. So notice if I do this, I get some nice sharp definitions here, like the cracks here, which I really like. You can play around with the radius, something like that, yeah. And I want this to be a bit glossier than the rest. Let's see how this looks. A bit less. There we go. And reduce the frequency. There we go. Look at that. That's getting nice and chunky. And I mean, there are so many sliders. I sometimes like to play with the preserved details. I'm not sure how well it's gonna show up in this, and it's kind of hard for me to see. Actually, Owen, do you know exactly what this does? Because I'm using it, but I'm not exactly sure what it's doing, to be honest.
I'm not too sure either. I think it may preserve some of the detail that's being lost in the radius blend through the different materials, but I'd have to check it. But it does seem to preserve a little bit of sharpness in the normals when you're sliding it up.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, it actually tends to preserve whatever's underneath it as much as it can within the confines of the other sliders.
Gotcha.
Right.
We
And
can
for
always
this,
ask Alvar for a detailed explanation.
yeah, yeah. Oh, that looks like a face. And yeah, I think this is a pretty good amount of high frequency there. And I don't have enough cracks, so I'm gonna go ahead and add one more with some more cracks in. I think this one looks pretty cool. Let's check it out. So a lot of work that I put into stuff like this is just adding material, seeing if it works, going back and like trying different materials and see how they work together. Yeah, look at that. There we go. That's super nice.
Mm.
So yeah, you get some really different results when playing with the repetitions. And you can also you can play around with offset and the rotation of the layers. I think it's is it 45-degree or is it 90-degree rotations? Yeah, 90 degrees.
Yeah, and this is going to especially be useful if you have, say, all the maps tiling at the same rate. You can see there's a clear tile that's repeating the same time across the entire surface. So if you set to offset, you start to get different seam areas, which means you can hide the kind of place where it actually starts to tile a bit better as well.
Yeah. So yeah, if I can adjust the offset here in tile preview, you can see how it works. And it's so cool. I mean, it looks good all the time when you're working in this. It's not like you're getting... It's just blending together so nicely all the time. I love it. There we go. So yeah, we're getting pretty close, I think. Might add some more height to this as well. There we go. Yeah, look at that. That's pretty close to what I had before. And it's super simple. It's all I did was color match and blended and played around with the high and low frequencies, pretty much. And what I can also do is add some water to this. So it sort of looks like the where is it? The Galapagos Islands, like the volcanic islands. Looks pretty cool. I can play around with the radius of the moistness and the glossiness of it. And this gets me every single time. Oh, there we go. So cool.
You know, if you were going to keep water in this, I would probably go with a different depth color to make it look very acidic.
Acidic, yeah, maybe add some, make it bluish, maybe? Yeah, something like that. Kinda looks oily.
Or like toxic waste, perhaps.
There we go.
Perfect.
Toxic Avenger. But yeah, this... so that's pretty much how I created that material. Is generally just the... I mean, I actually started working with the high and low frequency sliders when I created this material, and I've used it ever since. You can create so many cool results with it. Yeah, none of the materials that I loaded look as they are supposed to look. So it's, yeah, you really have to be creative and like see materials for what they could be instead of what they are. So yeah, and you made a tutorial about that as well, Owen. The ice tutorial, was it?
Yeah. I think basically anything. A lot of materials share the same properties, and you can really be creative, like you said, combining the scans to kind of achieve any material. Like even with that crazy green toxic waste color, you could totally make a tolerable weapon camo or something combining noises and scan data. Like it's really, there's no limit to what you can do. It's just, if you see sand for sand, you're not going to get much, very far. But if you start saying, okay, sand could be snow, or cracked mud could be ice, you can really start to layer things together and get some really cool, really cool, unique results. And really, like with this, the amount of blending you can do here, it's just, there's no limit to what you can achieve.
Right, so I'm gonna go ahead and save this and stream lava, yeah. And let's check out the other materials. I have the dust. I think is pretty cool. But that's a bit. That contains a lot more of materials as they are. But let's check it out. I can't remember exactly. I sound so prepared for this. Let's see. Yeah. So I think I actually use the same base for these, but I just added some stone and like dirt on top of it. Let's see here. Yeah, exactly. So I think this is a crushed rock material that I blended in, and this is just another like a lighter stone. So yeah, I'm not sure if this is worth showing how I created it. So I can open up the plane here. Oh yeah, the plane. I remember this one. So yeah, I'm sorry if you want me to go more in depth on the features. Just let me know, like if I'm going too fast or if I'm skipping over things.
If I had to hazard a guess,
Yeah.
I would say that people are mesmerized with what you're doing.
Oh yeah. This is the material that I use with the like sort of drag marks. You can see here in front of the bomb here. I really like this because it sort of looks like, I don't know, it's the explosion, like, I don't know, pressure wave has dragged stuff across the ground and stuff, which actually doesn't make sense because the bomb isn't detonated, but yeah.
Even things like, vehicles or whatever,
yeah.
just scraping through the ground.
Yeah.
Be creative with the shapes there.
What does that actually say on the side of it?
It says R-hogs. No, it says Warhogs.
Oh.
Yeah. I thought it was funny, like Warthog. Warhog. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, that is not textured with the studio yet, but it's using Megascans materials though. It's textured with the Diru and Endu, I believe, as well for some details. Yeah, I think I made the bolts and stuff on the side with Endu, and the whole thing is textured in Didu with the with materials from Megascans. So everything except the backdrop is Megascans. It's kind of hard to scan the sky, I think. So yeah, this is actually the same thing as the previous ones. It's using the same base here. So I can actually turn off the other materials here. Let's see. No, it's actually not using it. It's using another base. Yeah, so I can actually go through the different layers here, so we can talk about how I created this. So here I'm pretty much using it straight out of the box. A little bit increased or decreased glossiness. High and low frequency are 1-1. The amplitude it's pretty high amplitude, but it's very low frequency, like below 1. We can increase the tiling here. We can see just how low frequency it is. Turn it back off, and then I added another rock on top of that, which I'm using from below. So it's pretty much just showing up in the what's it called? Like in the dips in the height noise. And I think yeah, I rotated it, make sure it popped, showed up in those valleys, so to speak. Wonder if it happens if I rotate it back. Yeah, exactly. So I'm not getting the same features popping up. We can play around with the radius or threshold here. So that's how that looks. And same thing here, like I'm just color matching in the albedo and making sure there's some variations in the glossiness. Like I'm not sure if it's correct, but I prefer to have some variations in the glossiness, even if it's not completely accurate to real life. I like to have like some light playing around over the surface, having some different refractions and stuff. I mean, it's just a matter of taste, I guess. I'm not sure what you think.
No one will really mind if there's, no one will say that rock is inaccurate, but people will appreciate some thoughtful effort going into kind of making some variance in the roughness, and just having a bunch of different values on all the surfaces can help, because in Unreal Engine you can then use a power node or start to tweak them yourself in there too, which gives you even more control. So just having kind of setting your materials up in Studio with that in mind gives you the most control possible, because then you can take what you've made in Studio and further make edits in the engine.
Yeah, exactly. It's having some contrast between them allows you to further increase that contrast later on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I'm using the same mindset when I'm working on hard surface with metals and plastic and stuff. I like even if it's just aluminium on the entire piece, I like to have some variations in roughness on the metal. Like on a pipe, I like to have the different segments on the pipes have different roughness, just to add some interest.
Yeah, and like even just never be bogged down by the end result in Studio. Don't be like, oh, this isn't perfect yet. As long as it's looking good, don't worry about the viewport in Studio matching perfectly what you see in Unreal Engine. You'll be able to definitely match it yourself, and you'll have more control. It's actually more fun to just eyeball it in Unreal Engine than it is to try and get the perfect result in here, because it just gives you more freedom and control. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I did. So first I was gonna go with a more dusty look, and then in Unreal Engine I played around with the materials, and I liked them when they were way more moist and like muddy. So and as you said, Owen, that was achieved by playing around with the power, like the contrast and intensity and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, you'll often stumble upon cool combinations that you otherwise might not have found before, especially when you have your material set up. You might have 3 different Studio layers in there, and then you can start really having fun playing around. So it is like a 2-step process. You get this base materials made in Studio, which are already layered, and then layering again in Unreal Engine with other materials. You get just so many cool combinations, and it's a lot of fun.
Totally. And yeah, I noticed here when I was playing around, I actually used the material that I was talking about before, this one here with Wavy. I think it works really, really, really well. It sort of gets that sort of like it's lava going like swelling over in like layering. So I actually used that. So yeah, I just increased the glossiness and adjusted the albedo, and I also I actually kept the high frequency on that. Let's just see what it would look like if I. Oh, wrong one. Sorry. There we go. Yeah, no, that's not gonna work. So, but yeah, it's a pretty cool material. It works really well for this purpose. And this one is way more glossy, as you can see here in the roughness or gloss preview. Because I kind of like that it's sort of been worn away. Like it all used to be like this glossy material before, and then it's sort of worn away over time, and you see this. Like starting to crack and crumble. You see dust and rock forming, or pebbles forming. I kind of like that look there. And on top of that, I added, here comes the drag marks, which is it's a soil clay. I can view it online. So it's in case you want to try it yourself. So this is the material that I used. I'm not sure what it is actually. I'm not sure if the person who scanned it just dragged their fingers through the mud or what it is. And on top of that, I think, some rocks on top of it, which is way adjusted in the glossiness. Just add some fine details to the very smooth surface that I added before. And I think remove the preserved details completely to make it blend super nicely with the other material. Yeah, so if I increase the radius, it's gonna blend even more. That's... Oh yeah, one more material. Which didn't really do much. Let's check it out. Toggle it on and off. Doesn't seem to do anything. Interesting.
It might have been one of those layers that you put underneath or something.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes it can get lost.
It doesn't do anything. Well, let's optimize it. There we go. Right, and so those are the materials that I used. Let me just see if there's anything else. I think that's it for this one. And when I export, I mean, I made a couple of these scenes, and I'm using a similar setup for them all. So what I do is I export as, let's see here, I get the albedo and roughness and normal, and in the roughness I set displacement in the G channel and ambient occlusion in the B channel, because the roughness is just a black and white or grayscale map. So I'm using the two different other channels to just save some space, memory, make it easier to organize in Unreal. And I think it's called RDA packing, or do you know, Owen?
I just abbreviate whatever maps are in there. Also, I'm curious why you use ambient occlusion versus cavity. Just its preference, I think, in a lot of ways. Small details versus larger scale.
Yeah,
I find the scans have more cavity. Yeah. Oh, really? Okay.
I only use roughness, albedo. Yeah, I mean the maps that I just showed here, and I just set a value in Unreal.
That's what I did.
Okay, it's definitely worth having a look at the cavity. If you go to the viewer, the PBR viewer at the top left, and just have a look at the cavity data, there's actually, I find a lot of cool little detail you can make use of in the engine. It's just a little bonus if you want to, you can mask that, or you could also, deepen it for the shadows, but it's pretty interesting what you can do with it sometimes. Some scans have really nice deep cavity data, versus the AO usually tends to be much more broad and not very noticeable, but these get the nice cracks between the rocks. And
yeah, I mean, totally, it's way more, really cool. Way more interesting.
Yeah, you just get much more, detail there, and I really love using it, especially with those kind of rocky details.
You learn something new every day. That's awesome. Thank you. Totally gonna try that out. But yeah, I already have them imported, so I have to try that off camera. And when imported, like it's sometimes when you import, this might turn into a normal map, depending on the values in the in the channels. So this one almost looks like a normal map. So it might be worth checking out the texture group here, or the compression settings. I think you went over that as well in your tutorial, Owen. So yeah, it's totally worth checking out that tutorial because it's really awesome. I've checked it out myself several times.
Thank you. Yeah, just if you're interested in ice material using the cracked scans, you can have a look at that. But definitely important to always double check the compression on the mask when you import them, because like you said, Unreal can assume, and you get some weird changes. So
yeah,
usually I put any packed maps I'd put to either default or masks, and then obviously normal map you just flip the Y channel, and albedo leave as is.
And yeah, as you might notice, I've set it to no MIP maps, but that's just because this is pretty much just a fine render sort of scene. It's not for gameplay at all. As you saw before, it's it really just works for panning this area here, which was its purpose. So That's generally how I like to work. If it's gonna be shown from 2 angles, make those 2 angles look awesome. There's no point in making stuff behind the bomb look good. So yeah.
It still does though.
Yeah, I actually did. So
Yeah.
so yeah, let's check out the material. So it's, as I said before, it's pretty messy. I didn't make it for the stream, but it's really just a reflection of my messy head. But I think we can make some sense out of it. So what we have here is the different texture groups. Texture set 1, 2, 3. I just multiply it with a vector masking the RNG channels, multiplying, and it goes into the corresponding texture sets, which are mainly located here. Up here we have a slope angle, which works like this. If I can just scooch some stuff out of the way. So right now the slope is over here, like the slope angle is in this direction here. So if I open up the color picker, we can see that I can control which areas are the actual slope, and in that area the slope texture set, or texture set 3 I believe it is, gets blended in. So I'm using this lerping. So I'm using this as an alpha for our lerp. There's a lot of lerp nodes here.
Sorcery.
Yeah, I'm lerping the lerps into lerps. Yeah, a lerp that's just a abbreviation for, or slang for, linear interpolation. It's just way easier to say. And there's also a vertex color, but that was just a last minute thing I added because I wanted to fine detail, like manually paint in some I think it was, yeah, over here I wanted to paint in some of the dusty material that I showed before in some places where it was kind of difficult to procedurally blend them in. So actually we can play around with the sliders. We can see what sort of controls we have here. But so up here we have the 3 different texture sets, and just for the to make it easier, in theory they're just blended, like they're just lerped together, using different values. Like some are using the displacement to blend, some are using as I showed you before, like angle base blend. Some are using height blend, but yeah, they're just albedo, roughness, displacement, normal, nothing fancy going on here really. And then I have some.
If you just think, sorry, one second. If you just think of each component separately as a really simple input, so basically just each material has one albedo, one packed roughness, cavity, and displacement, and then normal map. If you just think of them as small, simple components, if that material graph seemed daunting to you, it's actually very much just a bunch of simple components put together. So if you're new to this, I'd recommend starting small with one simple material that just goes in straight in from Studio and set it up, and then maybe go to a 2 material blend. Just slowly work it up, because it does seem really intimidating if you see this huge graph of nodes and you're like, what is this? There's no way I'll understand this, but it actually is very simple when you break it down step by step. So I'd recommend doing that if you're new and you find, you know, like a 3 material blend with lots of different slope and various masks intimidating. It is very much learnable. It's just with a bit of time and figuring out the small segments.
This is like, there's really nothing fancy going on in this material. It's just there's a lot of textures going into it, and that's why it looks really, really intimidating. But it's really just I'm doing the same thing over and over and over again. Like I'm doing the same thing for each normal map. So each normal map have a multiply node with an RGB value, RGB node or vector plugged in, so I can control the intensity, and then I have a lerp with another one doing the same thing. So it's really, really basic. It's just a lot of textures blended together. So as I said, it's very simple. But I mean, I guess I could recreate the material from start, like doing something similar to show it off later, if you're interested. But I have some parameters that I always like to add when creating materials. It's first of all, it's power, which is pretty much a contrast. Then I have intensity for all the different maps, or most of the maps. And here is something called mask divide, and that's what I use to control like where the ground level is, so to speak. Like, as I said before, I have a height blend, an angle blend, and then I have some displacement blending, like sort of in combination with those blends. So if we check out, no, that's not gonna make it easier to see, but if I find a good angle here, so if I adjust this, we can see that a material sort of grows up from the bottom of the scene up the hill over there. So let's set it back to where it was before. I can find another angle here, and we increase it, and it sort of creeps up the hill. It's very, very subtle how it grows. I'm actually pointing on my monitor. Sorry, guys. Oh yeah, so it grows up there, and that's one blend. And I can also adjust the intensity of that mask. I can have some different controls for like the intensity and the stuff there. It's again nothing fancy. I can barely remember how I set it up myself now that I look at it, but it's we can dive into it deeply later. Then I have a roughness bias, and that's pretty much just a multiply node, which I add right at the end. I can show you here. Roughness bias, if I can find it. Roughness, and it goes back here. Well, it has to be somewhere, but it's, yeah, here it is. It's a roughness bias. So I multiply all the roughness roughness masks together, and I add a multiply node here at the end. And that means I can control all the roughness at the same time, which is pretty handy sometimes if you just want to tweak the overall glossiness or roughness of the material. And then same thing, pretty much the same thing as I had before with the height mask. I have with the slope mask. I have like the tightness of the blend, so on. It's just to tweak it pretty much. And then here I have 3 different intensities for the displacement. So this material uses a real-time tessellation. So if I zoom in here, we can check that out. So I think, yeah, the first displacement is over here. Yep, exactly. So we can increase that. I'm not sure how the frame rate is, but I'm gonna do it slow.
Real quick.
Yeah.
We don't mind if you guys talk, so if you need to say anything or if you have any questions, by all means, reach out.
Yeah, the chat is very, very, very quiet. Feel free to ask anything. There's no stupid questions. And yeah, so these just control the intensity of the displacement. And here's the slope displacement over here. Kind of over there. It's in the shade, but yeah. You get the point. Whoops. Nope. There we go. And down here we have just so we can tint the material. Yeah, we can see it here. There's a slight tint to it. We have a normal intensity. I'm not sure. Do you usually use that, Owen?
Yeah, very much. I actually don't do it the way you're doing it, but it doesn't. There's so many ways of doing it like this. I just have a little material function. I try to take anything that I'm repeating across the material into a function so that I can just have one node instead of a few. In this case, it's not a big deal because it's just one multiply node with a vector. But it's handy to if you find yourself doing a lot of things frequently and just clogging up your nodes. It's really easy to make a function and then reuse it over and over. But I'd say in general, boosting normals is a big thing you should always be testing out with these scans because some of them look really good with a boosted normal, especially rocky or very fine details. It's easy to go too far too, but in general, it's really cool. And I'd always have a strength multiplier on every normal map, individually, so you can control the strength of each material. But yeah.
Yeah, so you can create some really different results by playing around with this. So much fun. Yeah, and then I have, let's see here, yeah, the slope angle that I showed you before. I have an overall subsurface color, like for some materials, like I've made some snow scenes and desert scenes. I like to be able to just sort of add, like in this scene it's not gonna work. Well, maybe if I make it sort of bluish and super subtle, I can you can increase the decrease the strength of the shadows and stuff. You can get some cool results from that. But for this scene, it's not working. And then here I have the tiling. I'm sure there's a handy node, like pre-made tiling node. Do you know if there's one, Owen?
No, I think the way you're doing it is either that way or just multiplying a straight scalar, but the way you're doing it actually gives an advantage if you wanted to stretch things a bit more. If you wanted, for example, to stretch just in one axis like you're doing there, it should be just moving in the X. So basically that or just a scalar parameter in is the standard way to go for tiling, but it's easy enough to set up.
Yeah. So the way I set that up was it's a texture coordinate multiplied by a masked vector, 3 vector. So what I'm doing here is I'm just making sure that only the R and G channels are being used, as the texture coordinate is only U and V, 2 values, and then I plug that into the UVs here. So I have control over the 2 separate the U and V channels, or what's it called? Directions?
X and Y.
Axis. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you were just going for, if you didn't want to ever change the ratio, if you wanted to always keep it square tiled, all you got to do is put one scalar into the multiply node, and that'll do it as well.
Yeah,
so if you didn't want to mask to say, if you're confused with that, it's just you put a scalar in there and you're all good.
So yeah, that's how I do it, and I'm thinking how I best go about creating a new material. I'm thinking what I could do is just open up my studio scene and create the material from one of these that I just exported. Or do you have a better idea?
I think that sounds good. Maybe we could do a simple, maybe even 2-layer blend or something, just to show that it's really, the power is, if you were just to take one studio material and throw it on this landscape, you'd obviously notice the tiling, but a little bit of simple blending and masking can go a long way to just make it seem infinite. Like this material looks, you can't notice the tiling, you can't see the seams, it just looks perfect all the way. So a little bit of masking goes a really long way to help drive the realism and move tiling.
Yeah, totally. Oh yeah, and just gonna show that I show the 3D assets here, and these rock faces here or cliff faces here are just downloaded from Megascans. Very basic materials. I've just adjusted the power, intensity, desaturation, and they're just so good for dressing up the edges of maps. There are I think they added several new more of these recently, didn't they?
Yeah, they're really amazing, and I can't say enough how much a few vertical elements that kind of give some height to your scene can help.
Yeah.
Because if you're just working on a flat plane or a slightly subdivided plane and you're just trying to get the materials to look right, it's often really helpful to have just a big vertical, like that wall to the left instantly kind of grounds the scene and gives you some perspective. So it's really, really useful to have those around.
That being said, we do have a question, or basically a comment, I suppose. One of the users would like to know, let me rephrase this. He says a basic blend material would be great, maybe a slope example and a height example.
Sure, if I can remember how to do it, but let's just real quick just set up a material here. So we go through the whole pipe, like from the studio to Unreal. So here's just a quick studio I set up here, and just hide this rock here, and I'll apply just that one there. Just make a new material. Actually, I have to move this stuff over here so you can see what I'm doing. And there we go. And the content browser. There we go. So I'll just create a material, call this stream, not Steam, stream example. Apply that and open it up. So, come on, there we go. So I'll just find the slope and drag the textures in. So I want the slope albedo, the slope normal, and the slope roughness. Switch places, and first of all, what I do is I just plug them straight in, actually the R value here, and most of the time it looks good out of the box. I can do a plane here instead, or I can just apply it and check it out in the viewport. And there we go. So in my taste, it's a bit too glossy. So what I do then is, in the material here, I just multiply by not a 3 vector, 1 vector. I like to convert it to a parameter by right-clicking, because if I then create an instance, these parameters are exposed, so you can change them in preview in real time. So that's really handy. So I'll name this roughness bias. Multiply that with the red channel. Plug that in. I'll actually set it to. No, I'll leave it like this, and I'll show you the instance later. And for albedos, I always like to do the same thing. I multiply and name this albedo int for albedo intensity. Set it to 1 and plug that in there. And as a last step, I like to add a power, which, as Owen talked about before, is sort of like contrast. So I plug this in here and add a 1 vector again. Name this albedo power. Set it to 1 as default value. Plug that into exponent, and then I clamp this so we don't go above 1. There we go. That's really important. Like, you can get some really strange results. I mean, if you want strange results and some really overblown stuff, that's fine. But I like to clamp it so I never go above 1. And here for the normal map, my approach is to, same thing here, normal int, set it to 1 in all these, multiply that, and then if you want, you can do a normalize before you plug in to make sure it's got some nice and tidy values. And that's pretty much what I do for a basic material. And now if I save this and close it down and find it here again, where is it? It's stream example, and I make a material instance here by right clicking. I can immediately preview when I change these parameters. So if I increase the roughness bias, we see it becomes more rough, and if I decrease, it turns into a mirror. So I like to create instances when I work, just because you can instantly see just what you're like when you're changing, instead of changing a value, clicking apply, going into the viewport and back and forth. So this is just way easier. Plus it feels kind of cool to have parameters exposed like this.
Yeah, this is exactly what we were talking about earlier. It's so fast and easy to see changes right away. So never be too perfect with your studio materials, because there's so much you can do after to make it look even cooler. So
yeah,
it's really cool that in Unreal Engine, there's no compile, there's no wait times. Once you have the instance set up, you can just go ahead and tweak away, and everything updates right away. So it's really, really powerful.
Plus it's good. It's good practice, because once you have one material, you can just create instances and instances based on the same master material. So if you change something in the master material, if you realize, oh crap, I have to invert this, you just invert it in the master, and it's going to update and all for all the instances you made. Plus it's instanced, so It's just way cheaper instead of having one master material for each asset.
Yeah, it's so powerful. I'd recommend having like a separate master material for every major material type. So say
Yeah.
water would have a different one to a Megascan, and then I might have certain blend ones. If you wanted a cheaper material, you can have a cheap blend master material, and so on. You can do as many as you want, but it's so handy to have it all have as many instances as you want under one master material, which can then update, like you said.
Yeah. And yeah, here is just an albedo int. So I mean, I can boost this all like to in absurd numbers, but it's never gonna go above 1 because of that clamp that I put there. And that's the exact reason, because if I would go to 2, it might cause blooming and stuff, if I don't, like where I don't want it. So I can increase intensity and the brightness without going overboard. So I don't know, is that something you do as well?
I tend to always have a fairly bright albedo, which I then use the intensity to reduce, but I always have an intensity parameter like this as well. I usually never get that dark, but for this case it's perfect because you're going for dark stone. But yeah, also I'd always have the cavity multiplied after to further tweak that as well, but that's just preference, I think.
Yeah, I have to start playing around with the cavity. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then you could like adjust the crevices and stuff here.
Yeah, you can even not even use it as a cavity map and have, say, darker values. So if you're doing, say, an orange rock, you could have deep red values in the cracks or whatever. It's really powerful. You can basically mask the cracks by that way.
Yeah. So yeah, this is just the contrast. I'm not sure if we can see it very well here. At least I can't because I have the sun in my eyes. But if I increase this, yeah. Yeah, I should have... Wonder why I get that. Didn't I clamp the albedo power? Oh well. Set it 1. And so yeah, that's how I create that basic material. And now we haven't really covered the displacement, which is also a pretty important part. So I like to use the PN triangles and adaptive tessellation. And sometimes I'm getting some weird bugs, like it's sort of flickering near the camera's edges. Especially when I'm at like lower FOVs or field of use. So I like to set it to this to 30, and that will reduce or remove all the sort of cracking, like the holes appearing in the mesh. Or like, have you ever had that, Owen?
Yeah, I've had a lot of issues with displacement in general. I definitely would do the same thing. I also usually turn off adaptive because mainly for if you're doing cinematics, I find that you can notice the landscape kind of flickering and moving and kind of changing shape, because what it's doing is basically, depending on your camera angle, it's making the best displacement for that angle, but you might notice some weird warping happening. So I usually have that disabled. Yeah. And also, just to note quickly, if you're doing landscapes, large landscapes, be very careful with displacement, and definitely if it's necessary, always mask it by distance, because it gets ridiculously expensive, and Unreal tends to have a really big base cost for tessellation right now. So just to keep in mind.
Mm-hmm. And here is I'm just really quickly setting up the displacement here. So I'm multiplying it with a vertex normal Wordle space. And then I'm multiplying that with a constant here. Oh, yeah, it's called a constant, not a one vector. Constant, that's the name. Sorry. I've been saying it wrong all this time. I'll call this displacement int. And set it to 1 for now. And plug this into world position or world displacement. And here I'll just create a constant, not a parameter, in the tessellation multiplier. Yeah, this is how highly it's gonna be tessellated, the mesh. So I think 4 is the max.
I think you can actually go higher in the newer versions, but it gets really heavy. So that's the thing you would lerp by distance if you were going to do a really large landscape.
Yeah, exactly. So do you use a scene depth for that?
Yeah, scene depth or camera depth, or else you can do. Sometimes I do it by. There's a few different ways actually. I can probably put that together in a future tutorial. But yeah, generally cheapen it up as much as you can. But for a scene like this, it's perfect to just throw in a constant because you just want the detail everywhere.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and save this and play around with the instance here so we can see it in real time. It might displace a little bit here straight away because I set it to 1, but I don't think so. Yeah, there we go. We have to go pretty high. So let's find a nice angle here and increase it. Is it like 20? Whoa, not. There we go. So yeah, now we're getting some nice variations or height variations. Might actually go even higher, like 35. And what you could do is you could clamp, like if you're getting peaks like this, like of course you could go back and change the map in the studio, or you could go into Photoshop, whatever, and change it there, or you could just add a clamp or something like that in the material editor. Or actually, maybe you could do a. I'm thinking, or maybe is clamp the best way to go about it?
Yeah, honestly, it's kind of hard sometimes. You get just really areas that are really high up, and you can't really do much about it. I haven't really done many clamping because I think that kind of gives a harsh edge to it.
Yeah, it's
maybe
probably
give it a
gonna
shot.
like a plateau.
Yeah.
That's not gonna work. Ignore that. That was a bad advice. But yeah, so this is just a really basic material. There is no blending or anything at all. It's just textures straight in with some parameters exposed you can play around with, and that's it. And then you can do like all sorts of blending, like angle blends. You can do height blends. You can also do vertex blending, where you can like actually paint using the vertex paint tool here. That's usually what I do. Like the reason why I didn't do it for the other scene was just because I wanted to challenge myself and try and do something different. But usually that's my favorite kind of material. Yeah. Did I forget anything?
I think you nailed it. Just to go on that. Sorry, there's a bit of echo there. 1 sec. I'm not sure if it's gone. It's still echoing. Sorry. But yeah, just to say, sometimes it's good to have an automated blending system if you have a very large landscape, because you basically get free blending without any manual painting, which can be really useful if you're basically have a huge terrain or a huge area that you want to just get the materials going. If you set up those systems, the masks and everything, you'll have basically instant blending on any. You can swap out the mesh, you can swap out the terrain, and you'll get instant blending, which is really cool. So yeah.
And we could actually take a look, because honestly I can't remember exactly how I set that up. So what we can do is we can dissect the material that I created here instead. And let's go up here. So what I'm doing here is I'm dotting a vertex normal with a vector, RGB vector, and I'm subtracting this with a constant. This is start blend, or like the start of the blend. I can show you what these two parameters do later on, or three parameters do later on. But here, so I'm subtracting this dot with a value here, dividing this with the end blend, the constant here, and then I'm just clamping that 0 to 1. And this I'm using in lerps here. I think it's it's a first lerp, exactly. Then I'm lerping on the third layer later on. So like the first layer is this, or layer and layer, but like the first texture set is this, then it's the slope, and then it's the dusty material that you can see in some places. So it's really basic, actually. So if we check out the start and end blend, as well as the angle we looked at before. So let's get over here and find. Oh no, that's not the one. Where is it? Slope, albedo, power, slope. Oh yeah, I have a power there as well, just to sort of further have control. Whoops. I'm trying to remember exactly how this works. Like
It's really easy. If you want to debug it, you can put in 2 colors, just like a two bright different colors into the lerp, and then mask that, and then you'll instantly see what the mask is doing and where it can be pretty hard when you have a lot of similar materials blended together to see where it's going.
Yeah. What I could do, it might be overkill. What I could do is create a new material with these and just lerp 2 different colors. I guess I could do that.
Got a question for you.
Oh yeah, shoot.
So Chaos Range wants to know, what are all of the things that you have in your study scene? Do you use that scene to render your materials for show in your portfolio, etc.?
Oh no, it's actually just a, where is it? Here we go. It's actually just something that I made to, as we do now, like try out the materials in Unreal that I make in the studio. Pretty much just like a playground scene to see how stuff works together. Try different materials that I create, like blending, stuff like that. That's pretty much just what it's for. And the reason why I have these, like it's actually pretty much just for fun. Like I want it to look like a studio. So I can actually just take these and move them around, like I would in a studio. So if I if I like how something looks, like a photograph looks or a studio presentation, I try and figure out how that studio looks, like that kind of studio setup looks, and then I can just shuffle these umbrellas and boxes around to sort of mimic that. So that's the only reason why I have this this scene. Does that answer your question?
I would think it would.
Cool. Yeah, what are all the things you have? Oh yeah, okay, so yeah, the things here, these are pretty much just representations of things that you would find in a studio, a real studio. I think this is called a light box. I'm not sure. Let's take a look at this. This is a very simple mesh here. Then I have these umbrellas. Like it's actually like subsurface material on it, but it doesn't affect the lighting. It's just a reflection, real-time reflection that it affects. And this backdrop here doesn't really affect anything because the lighting is not baked. It's just there for sort of like the cube map that I've created here for the ambient cube map in the post process. And instead I'm actually using a directional light for the sort of like a bounce light. It's not really showing up on this, but if I show this rock here, we can see it a bit more clearly. So everything's just fake pretty much. It's just, I like to work this way when I preview stuff. It's a nice controlled environment. Any more questions? Oh, cool. Yeah. Where were we? We were in this scene for some reason. Oh yeah, where we're gonna create a slope. Yeah, we're gonna create a slope material. So I'm gonna copy this. I hope I can copy it over to the studio because that would make it a lot easier. So create a new material, slope example. Open this up and fingers crossed. Yep, there we go. Awesome. So I'm gonna create 2 RGB vectors here, one red and one will be green, like really obnoxiously green, and then we'll just create a lerp between those 2. Okay, there we go. And I'll use this as the mask, and we'll plug this into emissive instead of albedo. And just save that. And what I'll do now is we can just create a sphere and apply it to it. So yeah, this is one of the reasons why I like having a scene like this. It's lightweight, it's got some nice lighting, it's just control lab sort of environment. I'll create a instance and just apply that. So here is where the slope is. So you just have to imagine this is a environment. So if I open this up, scooch over a bit, and enable these parameters, we can adjust the direction here. We can adjust the tightness or fall off of the what's it called, the blend, make it softer or harder. You can also invert it if you go over the other value. Woo! So yeah, that's the blend that I use for those sort of like what's it called, like movie set scenes. Of course, you would need a bit more elaborate setup if you were using it for an actual like game landscape. But for scenes like this, something simple like this works just fine. Yeah, that's actually what I wanted to show, I think. Am I missing anything, John?
Are you trying to weasel out of this early?
Totally. No. I can go on for a really long time. I'm just not sure what else I can show in regards to the scene here. I think I've gone over most stuff. We can take a look at the material for the rock faces here as well. I think it's just, as I said before, is extremely basic. Yeah, it's pretty much what I created for the example material, except I imported, I think, a gloss map with it, which I just inverted, added a switch here in case I wanted to, in case other assets have a roughness instead of gloss, so I can just toggle this on and off in the instance here. And yeah, bias, so that's super basic here as well. Really, this scene is extremely basic. It's just using one light source as well. I think it's got a skylight, but I don't think it's not doing anything. It's disabled, so it's extremely freaking simple setup. No fancy fill lights or no cube maps. It's just one directional light lighting the entire scene. It's and a lot of the work is being done in the the post-process volume. So we can turn that off. We can just see exactly how much is being done here. Is it like here is pretty, like the contrast is way off. The colors is sort of like greenish, I think, green blue, and it all really just comes together when I turn this on. Like it almost looks like I turn on a fill light here, like on the bomb. Like I'm saying bomb so many times. I think the NSA is gonna come after me soon. So yeah, that's like it's like Megascans. This is Megascans. So simple to create something cool. I love it.
There's something else you could do too.
Yeah.
You're using a cinematic camera, right?
No. It's just a regular camera. I just lowered the field of view from 90.
Okay. I was going to say that you could put more of your post-processing into the camera so that you can get more specific targeting for each shot that you want to make.
Oh yeah, that's true. Actually, I've never used a cinematic camera.
You should.
Tell me, how do I do it?
You create a cinematic camera. That's all you have to do.
How do I draw a figure? You draw a figure? Let's see here. So, I'm guessing... where is it? Rendering? No. Give me something. Where is it?
I think the asset menu to the left, that's a default. The top left, it's not there right now, but that's where you would create it.
If you just hit Shift 1 and you'll open it up.
Shift 1?
Yep, Shift 1.
Oh, the mode is over here. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you go to cinematic, I guess, or yeah.
If you just type, yeah, there it is.
Camera actor. Interesting.
Yeah, this one is based more on actual film cameras rather than the default camera. So it's kind of hard to get in depth on, but I covered a lot of it in the last stream that we did.
Ooh.
but you can actually get different types of film back settings for this too to emulate different SLR types.
Where is look
Pilot?
through? Yeah, oh yeah, pilot. Look at this.
And it comes with depth of field automatically.
Yeah. Wow, this is cool.
If you want to change that, open up your settings, and I'll show you how to do it.
Settings. Oh yeah, it's down here.
Oh, you and your weird layout.
Yeah. This is
All right,
not
scroll
like
down.
I usually have everything on the other screen and just have this full screen pretty much.
Right.
And
Yeah, scroll down.
scroll down.
You have to
Or-
select your camera component.
yeah, you got to select the camera. But I think he did select
Yeah,
it.
yeah, it is.
The component in
Yeah.
the under the scene component.
It should be showing up with options.
See,
we
under
go.
scene component right there. Oh, there you go. Yeah, you're good.
All right, so
Oh, here,
if you
yeah.
want to change the what do you call it? The depth of field. The best way to do that is to change the focus distance.
Oh wow, this is really cool. Like, how have I missed this? I feel like such a noob right now. No offense to the other people who didn't know about this. Wow, you can.
It's relatively new.
Wow. Look at all this stuff. This is really powerful. Old school kind of camera.
So if you open up the focus settings rollout,
Oh yeah, sorry.
change. Yeah, so change the leave it on manual for now.
Wait, tracking, is this automatic depth of field?
Yeah, it'll try to remember where you were last, but put it on manual for now. You goofball, get back where you were.
Where? Oh yeah, manual.
Yeah, manual, and then draw debug focus plane so you can actually see where it's focusing at. And then it's going to be a big purple line. You can't see it because it's too far out. Go ahead and drag it. Stop it. Stay put. Okay, pull it back until you get where you can actually see
Oh.
it. There you- Now you can see where you're focusing.
Wow, this. I wish I would have known about this before.
Yeah, so if you focus on the bomb
On the
and
bomb,
you
yeah.
just chill out for a sec. Just chill out for a sec.
Okay, so
focus on the
should the
bomb.
bomb be inside the
So
the
the
line?
line, the purple line that you see is actually going to be the area of focus.
Okay, so
so-
yeah, so you should be dead in the center.
Yes, and what's going to control your depth of field is going to be your aperture setting.
Right. Yeah.
So if your current aperture is 2.8, you can put it down to 0.1 to really blow it out and make it look very. You'll see what I mean. Try 0.1. You can't go any lower than that unless you change the. Go down a little bit, or maybe it's up. You should be able to change the lens type to a minimal. Well, not that lens, but rather. Where the hell is it? It's in the settings somewhere, but you can change the minimum aperture.
Okay.
Actually, if you just type aperture in the search bar at the top, you should be able to find it pretty easy.
Nope.
Okay. Weird. What version of Unreal are you on?
I hope the viewers are learning something from this as well. Otherwise, we're just.
Oh yeah, don't worry. It's something. At least it ties into what you're doing because it does show how to show off the work that you do.
Yeah.
If you hit the min f-stop, you should be able to decrease that under lens settings.
Lens settings. Yeah.
Yeah,
There it
min
is, right
f-stop,
there. Oh.
If you change min f-stop.
Set it to 0 so we can just do whatever we want with it. Not the focal length, but the f-stop.
Oh right.
So, like this is trying to emulate how a camera would function, but the problem is that it doesn't actually compensate for exposure. F-stop is basically the way of it's controlling the size of your camera's like iris, how big the iris gets. So when it goes down to like 0.1, the iris is like gigantic.
Oh, it
And
looks
what that
like a
should
toy.
do, right? And what that should do is actually open up the lens to so much light that the scene should look blown out. But that it's not doing that. So you'd have to like compensate with post processing and stuff to get that appearance that you'd want.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you can definitely see the depth of field and how it works. It's really cool.
Wow, this is so cool.
And especially when you're doing cinematics, you can actually pick an actor to track while you're doing the cinematics. So if you had a car going down the road and you wanted some really tight depth of field, you can actually have it track the car in every frame and perfectly focus, which is really cool. Which means you don't have to manually adjust for each frame. So it would focus like a real camera. It's really cool.
Wow. Wow. Sorry, I'm completely gobsmacked here. This is so cool. All right. Yeah. So go create a cinematic camera actor, guys.
Yeah, it's awesome, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you want to see what my camera looks like, go to scroll up a little bit. and change the film back to micro four thirds. At the very bottom. Very bottom.
Oh, there.
That's what I use. And the beauty of this system is that every lens that you use is doubled. So a 35 millimeter lens is actually a 70 millimeter lens.
Oh.
So you're looking at everything in 70 millimeters right now, rather than in 35.
Cool.
So, like I've got a giant 300 millimeter lens, and it actually doubles the focal length at 600. So you could zoom in on a plane up in the sky, like cruising at stratosphere height, and still pick out the plane from that distance.
Nice.
But yeah, there's a ton of options for this thing, so it's totally worth playing with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cameras are my thing, so I'll sit here and talk about them all day.
Yeah, I don't really know much about cameras, like point and click. But yeah, so I usually, like, I'm not gonna do it anymore, but for this scene, I am gonna jump out of this. There we go. I did most of the work in the post-process settings. So I'm using both, like in the, I think it was 4.15, if I'm wrong, they added the new tone mapper. But I'm using that in combination with color grading or like lookup table. So let's turn that off and on. So it's a lot of the work is done there, and I'm also doing some work in the different like the saturation for shadows, midtones, highlights, and so on. And yeah, most post-process settings are almost like turned off. I don't think I have much. Yeah, I don't have any ambient occlusion at all. There shouldn't be much bloom. Where is it? No. Bloom. Yeah, 0.5. Okay, I was lying. But yeah, it's very bare bones. There's no depth of field at all in the in scene as it is right now. I might actually try and set something cool up with the cinematic camera now that I know about it. Might be really cool. Worth a shot.
Yeah, it's really, really good if you make a cool scene like this and you want to actually even just get cool stills from it. But like Sequencer, the new cinematic tool, is amazing, and you can just get some amazing fly-throughs and really show off the way the light hits the surfaces as the camera moves. You know, there's a lot of really cool things you can do. So it's incredibly powerful. It's literally like a full feature video editor right in the engine. It's just really, really cool.
Yeah, I love doing these like really, really slow fly-throughs, like pans.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah, that's gonna be cool. Do we have any more questions in the chat?
There's people talking, but nothing generally specific that we can talk about. There was a reference to competitor software, but we generally avoid talking about competitor software. It's just not professional.
No.
But just our texture scan is not too happy for the engine. It doesn't matter texture to texture. It doesn't matter if it's scanned or not. You're gonna get the same performance if it's the same format. So just to address that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely usable. There's been games that have used photogrammetry before.
Yeah, Ethan Carter.
Yeah, and wasn't it the other Battlefield game, the World War I version, that did a lot of that?
Battlefield 1. Basically, yeah, like it's often maybe a misconception that just because there's so much detail packed into the scans that they're more expensive or whatever, but
it's just
really
a texture.
It's another texture map, that's all it is. So it's the same exact thing, and plenty of games. In the years to come, there's going to be basically any game aiming for realism is 100% going to be using scans. So
in some ways, I would go as far as to say that the scans are probably going to run better, just because you don't have to do as much work to them to make them function correctly inside of the engine. Like they look good out of the box.
You need actually way more elaborate shader setups if you wanted to emulate a lot of the stuff you get for free packed into the map. So it's certainly something to think about there too.
Yeah, like
I mean,
I just show you like how easy it is to set up the maps. It's pretty much just plug and play.
If you've ever looked at some of the Unreal 3 material setups from Epic, some of those are a good example of like what you're getting for free now. You had to go through a ton of material work to get back in the day. I remember looking at plants when I was building some of my student projects when I was still in college.
Oh, someone.
I think he dropped that there.
No, right in the middle of his story. Oh,
that was funny. Back. I just got completely cut off. Nice work, Google Hangouts. Anyway, I was saying that I remember looking at the Unreal 3 stuff when I was in college, trying to learn how they built the materials, and I don't even like I distinctly recall looking at some of the foliage setups when I was building like ferns and whatnot, and some of these things had like hundreds of nodes inside of them, and it was like trying to decipher the Rosetta Stone. I'm like, I don't even know what I'm looking at.
Yeah, basically they can go insane. Like it's really, I respect usually because they're extremely talented to be able to do that kind of stuff in the shader, but basically they're turning like a lot of nodes to try and just get a realistic stone effect or whatever. As for we're getting all of this stuff right off the bat for free. So it's kind of, you got to take that into account. You can get some ridiculously simple setups. If you wanted, you could just simply plug in all the maps as they are and get the exact look of the material.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's good to get some control, but if you really want to be super performant, you can pack it in. You can get really simple setups and basically, have really good performance. So performance is definitely not tied to visual quality. It's something that you got to consider, just the input and how complex your shader is.
For sure. And with that being said, we do have a question from New Lab. I would assume that's how you pronounce it. Cool. He wants to know if you have any plans to make your scene available for study after the stream, or is that not possible considering it's using paid content?
I don't know actually. I'll look into it. It's not impossible, but my answer will be maybe. Hopefully.
There is precedent for this. I mean, the last stream that I did on the ethanol train project that I showed off, all of the stuff that I built in Megascans Studio, I gave away. I had no problem with that, mostly because it was location specific. If you want to call it geo-specific, I mean, it was built to look like Florida, so you're not going to take that and sell it somewhere. It's very obvious if you did. But I mean, for stuff like this, I mean, it's up to you really, since it is your project. But I mean, if nothing else, I mean, ultimately it's up to you. I'm not going to speak for you on your behalf for that one.
Well, it's up to Quixel, I guess. It's made for Quixel, so yeah. But hopefully, like I would love to do that. That's a really good idea. And maybe I could also optimize it a bit more and actually set up a proper camera. Now that I know about it,
cinematic camera. Yeah,
exactly. To make it look better and run better.
Get that depth of field going. Look real nice.
And maybe I could also make these available somehow, so you can look at these. I don't know. I could save them out as a surface, I guess, and make them available if that's of interest. Are you still there? I think
I'm still there.
Yeah, Jonathan is muted.
Yeah, I'm actually just. You're talking to me. I was typing to somebody in chat.
Yeah, I was just speaking out loud, I guess.
Herder, sorry. Yeah. I completely glossed over. What did you want to ask me something? I'm sorry.
No, it was fine. It was just I was talking about maybe I could make these surfaces that I just talked about in the stream available as surfaces for download. I'm not sure.
I don't see why not.
Yeah,
honestly,
if there's interest, I could do it.
I think there's interest. I mean, there was people asking about it.
Oh, really?
I did relay the question to you.
Herder. Yeah.
Indeed. Yeah, so far, I mean, this has been a pretty good stream. Yeah. We can continue for another half hour, but if you guys are, satisfied with what you have now, we can call it quits early. It's really up to you guys. It's all being done for you and your benefit. So if you want any other questions answered, now would be the time to ask.
Cinematic lights. Yeah.
While we're on the subject, man, that cinematic camera is something else. I was so happy when they came out with that. It really blows the original camera out of the water in pretty much every aspect.
Yeah, I totally missed it. Like I thought everyone was talking about the tone mapper, and I was like, oh, that's so awesome. But now that I learned about the camera, I see why people got so excited.
Yeah, I mean,
really powerful.
Yeah. When I was doing the, and there's a question I'll relay in a second, but when I was doing the ethanol train project, there was a part where like I was so happy because it felt like I was taking my Olympus camera and just running around in the woods.
Oh, yeah.
That's all I did. Like once I set up the scene, I was free to just run around inside of my little world that I had built, and it felt like I was doing something I would normally do, which is go out and get into trouble taking pictures of stuff I'm not supposed to take pictures of. So I've had chats with the FBI before about that. They're not terribly thrilled with me taking pictures of infrastructure.
What, really?
Oh yeah. Back in 05, I went out on a late night trip trying to make a video game deathmatch map around like an oil tanker thing. And where I had lived at this point, it was like up in the panhandle of Florida next to a huge Air Force base. And I went out and took pictures of the oil tankers, and there was a cop that was following me. And I didn't know he was following me, so when I went into getting a couple more reference shots of something else, I came out of the woods, and there was like the entire city's police department there pointing guns. Yeah, they were all there pointing guns at me, and they had like a canine unit and everything. And I'm just like, okay, well, I mean, at this point, I had like shorts on and flip flops, and I had really long hair like Billy does, and I looked like a complete total like hippie. I look like a hippie coming out of the woods, right, with a camera around my neck. I just put my hands up. I'm like, okay, yep, please don't kill me. I don't want to die. I don't have anything. Yeah, I had to sign a paper saying the FBI would come talk to me, and sure enough, in the morning, I woke up at like 10 after I went to bed at 3, and there was these 2 men in black there, like at my door. I mean, literally men in black. I mean, it's 2 dudes in a suit, and they're just like, can we see what you were working on? What were you doing? And I'm like, oh, okay. So I pulled up Max, like it was like Max 4 or something at this point in time, and I showed it to them. I'm like, I looked at him like, hey, this looks pretty cool, right? It's like this blocky looking piece of crap. Like, I had no artistic talent back then. And they're like, this is the stupidest thing we've ever been called out to come investigate. And they just left. Yeah. And that was the end of it there.
Wow.
So as far as questions go,
I'll be right back. 2 minutes. I'm very sorry.
No, I was gonna.
I'll be right back.
Damn it. All right. Well, I guess in the meantime, yes, there is a workflow for mixing external maps into Megascans Studio. It should be a pretty simple import option. I haven't done it in a while, since I haven't really opened up Studio since I last worked on my project, but it should be pretty simple. I mean, the whole thing has been developed specifically just to have a lot of ease of use. So it should just be like file import, if I'm not mistaken. That's really not hard. As long as you have all the maps calibrated correctly, or at least relatively correctly, it should come out okay. And I'm sorry for those of you guys who are listening. My name's Jonathan. I'm the community manager for Quixel. I also run development for Quixel Suite in the background. I'm usually the guy that has to approve a lot of the updates and whatnot to Suite before it gets pushed. So if you find any bugs in the tools, come yell at me, and I'll try to get it fixed. And I also sound a little weird right now too, because I got a cold 2 days before this stream. My best luck, right? So I kind of sound like Barry White right now. But yeah, let's see what else. Yeah, if you guys don't have any other questions, I guess when Wiktor comes back, we can wrap this up, unless you have anything else we haven't covered. But it's definitely for you that we're doing this, so it's good to have you guys here. It's always a pleasure to interact with you guys. We have a really good community, and it's always awesome to see what you're doing. If you haven't been yet, while we're waiting for him to come back, well, I'm gonna finish my sentence, damn it. While we have got Wiktor back, I would ask and recommend that everyone consider joining the Quixel Tools group on Facebook. It is facebook.com/groups/Quixel Tools group, all one word. It is I think it's 15,000 members now.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of stuff happening there.
Oh yeah, it's just full of people posting artwork all the time, and it's just so cool that it's so hands off for me, because I look at it every day. It's part of my job, and I like that you guys are so chill that all you do is just post work and you barely fight with each other, and it's just like, here's how I can make this, and here's how I can show you how to make this, and oh, you don't know how to do that? Let me show you. And it's so nice to see this community is just tight knit like that, even though there's people who've never met each other. They're just really, really, really cool. Yeah. So I mean, it's quite an honor to do what I'm doing and interact with so many people. So I'm sure you feel the same way.
Oh yeah, totally.
Especially since you're going to be getting pulled to do more of these streams. So
I am.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Especially when you're done with this project.
Yeah.
We have to do the final breakdown of it, right?
Yeah.
You know what, man? I'm looking at this bomb that you did, and I'm just thinking, I wish I had put some particles into my project. I should have made the engines have like the train engines have smoke coming out of them or something.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it adds a lot
this
of extra
just
depth to the scene.
yeah. I don't even know where. Like, I think these are just like default like particles from Unreal. Like I literally just searched for like smoke in the example content, and that's what I found. So I didn't even do it myself. So sorry.
Hey, Wiktor, haven't you done an Endu tutorial for sci-fi stuff in the past?
Yeah, I have.
Do you have the link to that handy that I can paste into the chat?
Ooh, it might be. It should be on the YouTube channel, but it could be hidden. I'm gonna check real quick. I'm guessing you're talking about the floor tile.
I'm not entirely sure. The question was, make an Endu tutorial for sci-fi style trims, please. Like the stuff you did for the Office demo.
Yeah. I mean, I think. I mean, there's some problems with the recording. It's a very old video, but this one goes over. I'm just checking it through. Yeah, I create a sci-fi floor tile sort of thing, but it's in Endu 2. It's not in the new one, but it's the same principle, pretty much. I create a whole bunch of tutorials. I'm trying to think which would be the most relevant. Yeah, for sci-fi, I think this is the only one I've made. I've made a couple of tutorials where I'm detailing stuff. I think I'm detailing the Wipeout ship. But yeah, totally check out the Quixel's YouTube channel, because there's a lot of tutorials there. And also the website, of course, quixel.se. I'm not sure which you are like.
I went ahead and I'm pasting a link into chat too as well. It's the Endu tutorial that I wrote up. If you're a fan of doing hard surface stuff and you don't like watching videos, that's probably something you might find interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Or as a side to watching videos. We had a while there where people were complaining that we were making too many videos and not enough text tutorials. So earlier this year, I was just like, you know what? I'll just do it. I'll just write it up. I'll just show you how I do something. It was kind of nice timing too, because I was in the middle of making a tank car, so I was like, well, I guess this ugly mug will have to do. So.
Yeah, we've been doing some text tutorials, like as I said, like in periods. Like sometimes it's more video, sometimes it's more text. But yeah, I mean, if more people want text tutorials, I would love to make a couple. It's a lot of fun making those as well.
You know, I've got a question for you.
Shoot.
I want to know what your motivation was for doing this.
This scene?
Yes, this.
Oh, well, I really just wanted to create as many different sort of environments as possible, and I thought this, like, my first goal was to make it volcanic, as I said before. So maybe a lava stream and like some dead trees. Like, so the base you see here would be the volcanic environment, but then I started playing around with the roughness, and I just saw it looked so cool with the like when it looked sort of wet and muddy, and like I got these World War I vibes. And when I sent it over to Linus, a colleague at Quixel, he sent back a link with the ink spots. I don't want to set the world on fire. And I instantly got what he meant. It was like totally post-apocalyptic, and he said, "Put a bomb there," and I did. So that's my motivation behind it. It took me about, I think it was 2 work days, maybe like 14 hours to complete it. It was very, very.
Every
simple.
time. Sorry to cut you off there, but every time I look at your bomb.
Mm-hmm.
And I see the writing on the side of it, I think of the two black soldiers that were photographed in World War II holding up artillery shells, and they had written on the side of it "Easter eggs for Hitler." That's what it instantly draws to my mind, that particular image. It's such a cool looking shot that they got back in the day.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
I'll send you a link to it if you ever want to check it out.
Yeah, please do.
Just to jump in and answer Peter's question a little while back, he asked, would the import have to be a full material set, or can you import a single map to say mix in on a height map? Just to expand on the answer Jonathan gave, you can, in fact, I always do this, you can just grab the normal or even just grab the cavity or whatever, just to use as a mask in the materials, say a detail normal map, or in the case of the ice material I didn't actually use albedo or any other maps, I only used cavity to mask out the areas where I wanted ice and water. So it's more than, it's definitely a very valid thing to do, especially when there's extra data that you don't need and you can save obviously in performance. So often I might make 3 cavity masks and then pack them in Photoshop and bring them out into Unreal, and then you can have 3 different masks in one texture to play with. So it's definitely really valid, especially when you start getting blending with slopes and whatnot. The more masks you can have to break up the slope kind of threshold and the areas where the slope starts to mask in, it can really start helping. So I definitely recommend doing that.
Now, this is why we have Owen on the stream, because he knows a lot of stuff. And for those of you who are interested, we are going to plan a stream with him as soon as he has a project of his own to show. So look forward to that. This guy has a ton of knowledge and loves to share it.
Yeah, you have quite a few of the awesome scenes cooking. I know that.
If there's anything in particular anyone would like to know for that stream, feel free to let us know, and we'll definitely include it just in advance.
And if you guys haven't noticed yet, the company has been going through a couple changes recently. We've been focusing more on community outreach. Not that we haven't before, but even more so coming up. Many of you are probably here because of the email that was sent out a couple of days ago. We are now moving into trying to get out weekly emails so you guys are in touch with what we're doing more often than you were before. And we're trying to do streams like this so that you can get to know the people behind the company. And we kind of like the environment of this, where we get to see you guys and you get to interact with us, and it's not like we're a faceless corporation that doesn't care, because we definitely care. I mean, Quixel's made up by the same artists just like you. I mean, really the only difference between us and you is that we work for Quixel and you don't. That's the only difference. And anything that we do, like any of the stuff that you see here, I say it all the time, and I'm sure people get tired of hearing it by now, but anything that you see that Wiktor has done, that I've done, that Owen has done, that anyone in our company has done, is something that you can do. And that's the most important thing to take out of all of this, I think, is that every one of you guys is capable of doing all this work. And especially now with Megascans bringing what's the best way to describe this? Bringing the artistic focus away from the grunt work and more onto being an artist, making the environments, making the composition, making the lighting. I think we really are at this point in a position where we can say we're in like a renaissance of 3D artwork. It's this is unheard of. I mean, I've been doing 3D art since 2000, and I've never seen anything quite like this. I mean, just what he did with Megascans Studio, using any other application would have taken you like a long, long time. And just the quality and the ability to kick these maps out seamlessly, and the stuff that's hidden up there in that corner that I can't talk about, but you'll see really soon, and it's going to blow you away, trust me. There's just so much cool stuff coming, and it just keeps getting better. Yeah. So,
and the library just keeps growing all the time. And as I've just demonstrated, like, even if what you're looking for is not there, you can easily create it from what's already there.
That's like my favorite part about this too, is being able to mix and match scans together to produce something like otherworldly with them.
Yeah.
It's like what you're making, like, it almost looks like a different planet, even though I clearly know that all the scans came from something we've scanned here, because nobody has warp drive yet. So it's
grounded in reality.
Exactly. It's like physically based scanning. Haha.
Yeah, like basically the material properties is all that matters. You don't need to make anything that really exists. You can probably go crazy with alien looking textures and everything, and especially really insane like the acid you had earlier. You can just go nuts with it. I think worth experimenting there for sure, but just using the scan data for what it is, just a set of values and a texture, and leveraging that to make any kind of thing you can dream up is really the power of the studio and the scans.
Well, I think unless I'm wrong here, I think this is time to wrap it up, and maybe see you guys next time.
Yep. Sounds good.
Any closing words from you, gentlemen?
No, I just want to thank everyone for like watching and asking questions. It's always a lot of fun with these things, and thank you for allowing me to to show this.
Well, thank you for being here. You're such a nice guy, taking your time to hang out with us.
Nice.
No, it's good that that we can do this again. So
Yeah,
we're gonna try
I'd
to
love to do it more.
definitely going to try to do it more. That's an additional duty I've taken on, is finding the time to make these things happen, which is only a good thing for you guys, because it just means that we're going to get more. What's the best way to describe this? Get more involvement with you, get more information out there, more learning. Just things are always changing, and if you're not learning with it, you're going to get left behind quickly. But that's the nice thing about these streams, is that even if you were kind of left behind even a year ago, what you've shown here is enough to get anybody caught up. So
hopefully.
All right, well, I think that is going to be it for now. So unless there's any objections, but it looks like we're all set. So that was, well, yeah, that was awesome. I'm happy to have been here to at least do my little part in moderating the chat. So
despite your cold, you're a trooper.
my Barry White sickness, yes. All right, guys, well, good to have you again, and look forward to this being on YouTube shortly. I have to log into the Twitch stream and get that all set up, but it'll be up there probably before the end of the day. So if that's anything else, I guess that's the end. So
cool.
I think that's it.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot for coming in. See you later.